man dies in a prison cell, alone, no cameras, no headlines at first, no dramatic goodbye, but a just day later, something unbelievable happens. Thousands of people flood the streets. Traffic stops, businesses shut down. The entire city of Oakland pauses, not for a president, not for a celebrity, for a drug kingpin. His name was Felix Mitchell, and the story you're about to hear isn't just about crime. It's about power, loyalty, and how one man became so influential that even in death he couldn't be ignored. Number 8. Where it all began. To comprehend Felix Mitchell, you must comprehend Oakland during the 1970s. This was hardly the refined contemporary city of today. There weren't many opportunities here. Your survival frequently depended on the decisions you made at a young age. The streets were a trap for many. However, for Felix, they served as a guide. He wasn't the kind to make snap decisions. He saw everything: who earned money, who lost it, who was placed under arrest, who remained unrestricted. And slowly, he began to realize something others didn't. The streets weren't failing because of danger. They were failing because of disorganization. And that's where Felix saw his chance. Number 7. The making of Felix the Cat. Felix became known as Felix the Cat, not because he was jovial, but because he always managed to land upright. Regardless of how dangerous the situation is, he managed to escape. But it wasn't luck that made him truly brilliant. It was a tactic. Rather than being another dealer, Felix made something more significant: a network with structure, an empire. The 69 Mob was his group, and they weren't like street gangs. It ran like a company. Clearly defined roles, defined regions, coordinated distribution, strict allegiance, and this is what gave it its potency. Felix was the conduit for everything, every choice, each and every transaction, each dollar. He wasn't only a component of the system was him. Number 6. The money, and the myth. Felix Mitchell was making millions of dollars when he was at his best. However, a legend is not created by money alone. He did something with the money. Felix didn't hide in distant mansions. He maintained ties to his neighborhood. He assisted families, helped the locals. Events with funding. Outsiders found it incomprehensible. Why would a drug lord repay? However, Felix had a deeper understanding. People are momentarily controlled by fear. They are always under the influence of loyalty. Before long, people weren't only employed by him, they had faith in him. They protected him, and that made him nearly untouchable. Because how do you take down a man when an entire community refuses to turn against him? Number 5. The system fights back. However, such power always has a price. As Felix's empire expanded, the more difficult it was to ignore. Local law enforcement made an effort and didn't succeed. Felix wasn't irresponsible. He didn't reveal himself. There were no clear traces left by him. Thus, the case became more serious. And in the end, the federal government intervened. They brought something new this time: the RICO Act. Catching Felix selling narcotics wasn't the only goal. The goal was to demonstrate that he was in charge of a whole criminal enterprise. And if they were successful, everything he constructed would suddenly fall apart. The man who used to observe everyone else suddenly was the one under observation. Every action was monitored. Each link was examined. Every vulnerability was revealed. For the first time in many years, Felix Mitchell was susceptible. Number 4. The fall of a king. It took time for the arrest to occur. It moved slowly, computed, unavoidable. When Felix was eventually placed under arrest, Oakland was rocked by it. The ruler who cannot be touched was no longer at liberty. The trial came next. The evidence piled up. Witnesses testified. The empire started to fall apart. After that, the decision: guilty. Felix Mitchell received a jail sentence. This would be the end of the story for many. However, for Felix, it was only the start of something more sinister. Number 3. A death full of questions. Felix's influence persisted when he was incarcerated. His name was still powerful. His tale kept developing. However, in 1986, everything was altered. Felix Mitchell was discovered dead in his cell. In that exact manner. No caution, no accumulation. There was no satisfactory explanation. It was referred to by officials as natural causes. However, no one was persuaded. Because strong men often don't pass away quietly. Rumors spread swiftly. Was it truly organic? Was something concealed? Did anyone wish for the conclusion of his tale? Nobody was able to prove anything. However, one thing was certain. He became even more enigmatic after his death. And occasionally, legends are made of mystery. Number 2, the funeral that made history. What happened next? No one expected. Felix Mitchell's funeral became one of the most talked about events in Oakland history. Thousands of people showed up. Not hundreds, thousands. The streets were filled. The energy was overwhelming. People cried openly, shared stories, paid respect. To some, it was shocking. Why would so many mourn a criminal? But to those who knew his impact, it made perfect sense. Because to them, Felix wasn't just a kingpin. He was someone who gave them something they didn't have before. Support, opportunity, recognition. And that's something people don't forget. Number 1, the legacy that still divides people. So who was Felix Mitchell, really? A dangerous criminal who built his empire on drugs? Or a leader who stepped in where the system failed? The truth is uncomfortable. He was both. And that's why his story still sparks debate today. Because it forces us to ask a deeper question. What creates someone like Felix Mitchell? Is it ambition, environment, or a system that leaves gaps, waits to be filled? Whatever the answer is, one thing is clear. Felix Mitchell didn't just live in Oakland. He changed it. Forever. Felix Mitchell wasn't just a man. He was a force that shaped an entire city. His rise, his power, and even his mysterious death still haunt Oakland to this day. But here's the real question. If someone like Felix were alive today, would he still be untouchable, or would the system finally catch up? The streets remember him. The legends talk about him. And now, you do too. If you want to uncover more stories about untouchable figures and hidden truths, make sure you smash that like button. It really helps us bring more secrets to light. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell, because the next story we're revealing might just blow your mind. And it's a story no one wants you to hear.